You always thought the hardest part would be packing, sorting through the old sweaters, the photo albums, deciding what to take and what to leave behind. But that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was handing over your keys. That tiny, quiet sound, metal against metal, when you placed them in your son's hand and realized you weren't going back. Not tonight. Not ever. You told yourself it was the smart thing to do. Your knees had been aching more lately. The stairs in the old house groaned louder than you did. And the idea of hot meals, help on call, and peace of mind? It didn't sound so bad. Your son called it retirement living. The brochures called it a vibrant senior lifestyle. You called it just in case. But deep down, you already knew. You were leaving more than a house. You were leaving control. The first day was polite. The front desk smiled too wide. The nurse called you hun. Your room smelled like lemon disinfectant and wilted carnations. You told yourself to be grateful. You're lucky, people said. Lucky. Lucky to downsize your life into one small dresser and a twin bed. Lucky to eat dinner at 4:30 with strangers who didn't even look up from their soup. Lucky to hear the same 3 songs piped through the hallway speakers every morning. Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, and that one version of Blue Moon that always skips at the bridge. Hard truth number 1. You don't feel safe. You feel watched. They tell you it's for your protection. Motion sensors in your room, daily check-ins, a camera near the hallway for security. But when you close the door, you don't feel alone. You feel observed, like someone's always listening, judging. Even the way you walk gets written up in your file. They track your steps like you're a patient, not a person. And one slip, one moment of wobble, means a new label on your door, high fall risk. That label comes with fewer freedoms. No walks unsupervised. No shower without someone nearby. No more privacy. And you didn't fall. You just stood too slowly. Hard truth number 2. You gave up choice to gain convenience. You thought you'd have options. But dinner is served when they say. TV turns off at 10. And if you want something not on the menu, you'd better ask 3 days ahead and fill out a form. The simple things, a cup of tea at midnight, crackers before lunch, your own pillowcase, become favors you feel guilty asking for. You used to live by your own clock. Now, you live by theirs. You sit in your room that first week, staring at the framed photo of your wife on the nightstand. She's smiling, eyes squinting at the sun, holding the dog you had to give away. You whisper to her, "I'm sorry." Because no one told you how lonely it would feel to be surrounded by people. People in wheelchairs. People watching the same rerun for the 4th time. People who don't remember what day it is. And the worst part? They all look like you. You try to tell your son how you feel. He nods, says you just need to adjust, that it's better than being alone, that they're trained to help. And maybe he's right. But that night, when the hallway light flickers, and you hear someone crying through the paper-thin wall, you wonder if he ever really understood what you gave up. You gave up the mailman waving from his truck, the smell of your own coffee pot, the sound of silence in your own living room. You didn't just downsize, you disappeared. And no one noticed. There are still 4 hard truths you haven't faced yet. And the next one may be the one that breaks your heart. You wake up before the sun, not because you're rested, but because someone opened your door at 6 o'clock a.m. Soft knock. Bright light. "Good morning, Mr. Davis? Just checking in." She doesn't wait for a response. She writes something on a clipboard and leaves. You stare at the ceiling. The room smells like hand sanitizer and starch. Your back hurts. But there's no point in lying in bed, because the day has already started. Not on your time, but theirs. You shuffle to the dining room, 3 other residents are already seated. No one talks, just the clinking of spoons. You smile at the woman next to you. She stares through you. You used to have breakfast with the radio on. Now, you eat in silence. No one even asks how you take your eggs. Hard truth number 3. You're not surrounded by community, you're surrounded by decline. They said you'd make friends here, that you'd find a social circle, that every face in the hallway would be someone to talk to. But what they didn't tell you is, those faces change. Fast. One day, the man across from you at lunch is gone. No goodbye. Just a folded napkin where his hands used to be. No one talks about it. The staff simply resets the table. Next week, someone else sits there. Then she disappears too. You stop asking names. Because it hurts less that way. You see things here you weren't prepared for. People losing track of their thoughts mid-sentence. People being wheeled back from the med room with vacant eyes. You hear alarms in the night. A voice down the hall screaming, "Help me!" But no one rushes in, because they've heard it before. And maybe it's nothing. Or maybe it's something. But either way, it keeps you awake. You think about your neighbor back home. The one who brought you apple pie in the fall. The one who knew your name, not your room number. You think about how you used to wave from the porch. How the mailman smiled at your dog. How the cashier at the corner store asked how your wife was doing. There, you mattered. Here, you exist. Barely. Hard truth number 4. Help comes fast when it's urgent, but slowly when it's human. You pressed the call button once last week. Your knee had locked up. You just needed someone to help you stand. It took 17 minutes. 17. When the aide arrived, she was kind, but rushed. Sorry, we're short-staffed today. They're always short-staffed. But somehow, they're never too short-staffed to give you your pills, or remind you what time dinner is, or report your food intake. They manage your medications like clockwork, but they don't have time to sit and talk, to ask about your day, to ask if you're lonely, to ask what you miss. Because no one here is paid to care like that. Only to keep you going. Not living, just going. You sit by the window after lunch. Same window, same view. A concrete garden with one bench. Too hot in the summer. Too wet in the fall. You used to walk in real parks, watch real leaves fall. Now you just count the squirrels, if they show up at all. Later that night, you hear a knock. It's the nurse again. Time for your blood pressure check. She smiles. She's nice. But you know, after this, you won't see another person until morning. And there it is again. That heavy quiet. The silence between the check-ins, where no one sees you, no one hears you, no one knows what you're feeling. Not really. You think about picking up the phone, calling your son, but you don't want to sound ungrateful. You don't want to sound like you're complaining, so you don't call. And that might be the loneliest part of all. There are 2 truths left. And if the first 4 felt heavy, just wait until you realize what you traded your dignity for. You try not to think about how long you've been here, but the calendar on your wall says otherwise. 4 months. 4 months since you packed up your life and traded freedom for structure, routine, security, or so they said. Your son visits on Sundays, sometimes. He brings flowers, talks about work, shows you a photo of the grandkids, then checks his watch when he thinks you aren't looking. You nod and smile. You don't want him to feel guilty, but when he hugs you goodbye, and your arms stay empty again, you feel it. The hollow. The part of you that used to be filled with noise, love, messy living, now replaced with linen schedules and silence. Today, the staff posts a flyer in the hallway. Join us this Friday for bingo and root beer floats. You stare at it for a long time. Not because you're interested, but because part of you wonders, is this what the rest of my life is going to look like? Hard truth number 5. You're not aging with dignity. You're aging on display. Every movement, every need, every private moment becomes someone else's business. You used to bathe alone. Now there's a knock before your towel even drops. I'll be in the room with you just in case, they say. You try to smile. You try not to flinch. But every scrub, every lift, reminds you of what you lost. Not just strength, not just independence, privacy. You want to cry, but you don't, because you know the cameras might still be on. So instead, you laugh politely. You make it easier for the aide. You act like it doesn't bother you. But it does, because you're still human, still a man. And no one asked if you were okay with any of this. They just assumed, because you're old. And then it happens. The moment you never thought would come. You ask for something simple. A different pair of shoes from your closet. They say it's not allowed. You say you want to go for a walk alone. They say policy changed. You ask for your electric shaver back. They say it's now a safety concern. You sit down, shoulders slumped, breath heavy. You realize you don't make decisions anymore. You get told, like a child, or a patient, or a file. Hard truth number 6. You didn't sign up to be forgotten. But that's exactly what's happening. Your world has shrunk. Fewer visits, fewer phone calls, fewer chances to be more than a birth date and a room number. The mailman doesn't know your name. The cook doesn't know your allergies. The young aide who brings your pills calls you sweetheart, but can't remember where you're from. You've become part of the furniture. You're there, but fading. You feel like a photograph left too long in the sun. And the worst part? You're starting to forget pieces of yourself too. You try to remember the last time someone really looked at you. Not through you, not past you, just at you, as if you still mattered. You walk back to your room, close the door, sit on the edge of your bed. There's a framed photo of your old house on the wall, a little crooked. You reach up to straighten it, but your hand stops halfway. Not because you're tired, but because, for the first time, you're not sure what good it will do. There are no more truths left to uncover. You've lived them now. And the question that lingers isn't about policy, or meals, or what's on the activity board this week. The question is something deeper, something quieter. How much life is still yours, when every part of it belongs to someone else? You wake up on a Tuesday. Nothing on the schedule, no games, no screenings, no crafts and cookies, just a quiet morning. And for once, you don't wait for someone to knock. You don't wait for permission. You get up, wash your face, brush your hair, and you sit in the chair by the window. Not because it's routine, but because today, you want to feel the sun. You stare out at the courtyard. A squirrel hops across the sidewalk. A leaf tumbles to the ground. You feel the weight of your years. But for the first time in a long while, you don't feel invisible. You feel present. And that's when it happens. A knock at your door. But it's not the nurse. It's your son. Hey, Dad. He walks in with a bag of groceries. The kind of things you used to love. Real coffee. Your favorite crackers. A paperback novel you used to read every summer. Thought you might want a few things from the outside. You smile. Not forced. Not polite. Just real. He sits down. You talk. Not about medications, not about meals, but about memories. The day he broke his arm in the backyard. The time you both got lost in the woods and ended up laughing for hours. You remember things you thought were gone. And for the first time in a long time, you hear your own laugh echo in the room. After he leaves, you write something down. On the back of an old napkin. A list. Call him more. Ask to walk outside, not supervised. Just you. Speak up when something doesn't feel right. Tell the nurse your name. And ask for hers. Remember, this isn't a sentence. It's still your life. You fold the napkin and tuck it in your drawer, because you may not have much space anymore, but that drawer is still yours. Later that night, you look in the mirror. You see the wrinkles, the gray, the heaviness. But you also see something else. Ownership. You may not control the kitchen, or the schedule, or the policies, but you can still control how you live within them. You can choose to show up, to be seen, to be heard, because you're still here, and you still matter. You sit down at the desk, pull out an old notebook, and start to write. Not a complaint, not a regret, but a letter. To someone else. Maybe younger, maybe watching, maybe wondering if this is what they should expect someday. You start with this. Before you give up your keys, listen to someone who's already made that walk. You may not get your old house back. You may never taste your favorite coffee exactly the way you made it, but you can reclaim something far more important. Your voice, your choice, your identity. Because growing old doesn't mean disappearing. It just means you have to fight a little harder to stay visible. So if this story felt close to home, if it stirred something in your chest, if it reminded you of someone you care about, or the kind of life you want to protect for yourself, then take a second and subscribe to this channel, because we're not just telling stories, we're telling the truth, the ones people don't always say out loud, and we're doing it for you, because you still have more life to live, and your story isn't over yet.